way you want me to come?
Now, I did want to show you, I don't know if you want to see it on the camera.
Yeah, you can do whatever.
You know what? Let me get a new tape out because I want to make sure I've got more room. Because this one's getting down to the...
That's the aerial
Map that the snowy areas that show.
Your bigger problem with their snowy is not contamination of water, but let's spray this whole area. Then, same area where the residents are built. This is where my daughter lives. Same area. Residents here sprayed with Agent Orange. Are you familiar with Agent Orange and dioxins?
Yeah.
Dioxins are
about 100 times stronger than PCE and PCE,
which contaminates the water. So it's much greater than just a groundwater problem, which Dietrich is very much.
Yeah, because today they were really emphasizing the groundwater and whether they
course
could stop it. So it's like, okay, well, it sounds like, oh, problem's all fixed, problem solved, right?
Exactly. Have you read this? By the way, while you're doing all this, have you read this book, The Killing Winds?
No.
I would highly recommend that you get this book. It's all about Dietrich.
Can you say a few words one more time?
1, 2, 3, 4.
Very heavy little lamb. You're going to be in the sun, aren't you?
I am, yeah.
We're going to have to squint.
I hope not.
Do you want me to do this now or just talk to you?
Right now, just talk to me. You can hold those though. I mean, it's quite nice. I'm going to have you stand right here.
Like two bus going by at the same time. And another bus.
For the record, let me have you say and spell your name. Go ahead.
Randy Allen White, R-A-N-D-Y, W-H-I-T-E.
All right. And you live here with?
I lived here 25 years ago. I actually grew up here in Frederick, Maryland.
There we go. So you grew up here, and how did the house that you were describing to me where your daughter lived, did she live there on her own, or did you live there too?
She lived there on her own.
Okay.
I grew up about a mile from here, from Fort Peak.
So tell me how you've been affected by the contamination.
Okay, well, what actually happened was about 2.5 years ago, my daughter, who was 27 at that time, started getting sick. She was diagnosed with having grade 4 brain tumor. 2 years after she was diagnosed, she died at my home. At that time, about 2 months after that, sorry. About a month, 2 months after that, my other daughter started to get very sick in her stomach. We took her to Moffitt Cancer Hospital and Research Lab in Tampa, Florida, because what just happened to my other daughter who had just died from brain cancer. So we were very, very concerned. Moffitt said at that time that the tumors were very abnormal. They operated, removed those tumors, and then about 6 months after that, their mother was diagnosed with stage 4 cancer. Moffitt Environmental, which caused me to come to Frederick because we were in Tampa, Florida, and I hired professional scientists, microbiologists, researchers, and we began to really research and delve into Fort Detrick, and we found out that we have a serial killer in Frederick living in our backyard, which is called Fort Detrick.
That piece of paper, sorry, able to grab this. This is what they gave us today to show us what they've done. Sort of some of the information. And the thing I wanted to show you is, the whole picture that they have. And how much they did it by having what was in the ways that way. So looking at this, does that give you peace of mind? No.
Well, here's what it does. It's mixed emotion. I'm glad that they're finally doing something, but they're 20 years late. In addition to what you have here, is the problem is not just the groundwater, because all they're testing is TCE and PCE. But through our scientists, which are some of the best in the nation, what we found out is not just TCE and PCE, but we're also dealing with the chemical Agent Orange. I have in my hand a list of people here, 400 now, 400 people in a 3 to 6 mile radius of Fort Detrick that have cancer. And some of them were on city water. So it didn't make sense to me, how can they be on city water and still have cancer? And so we began to research and understand. And we have Waverly here who has a high level of cancer. So we checked that out. Then we found out that Area B, if you look at this, it's very difficult. But if you look at this is Area B. Years and years ago, they used to spray Agent Orange in this area. And then this is in 1959, an aerial map. But then you come back to the same area where we are today, and they built residential housing on this area where they had sprayed Agent Orange. Now here's the difference. TCE and PCE doesn't have a life expectancy like Agent Orange. Dox, which are one of the most deadliest chemicals known to man. And Detrick is not saying anything about that. So we have our own investigators coming in. They've tested all of these sites around this area. And I would also like to say, according to what they have showed you here, this, according to our investigation, is only remedying about 10% of the problem. So you still have 90% of the problem. And what is happening is this. We are being flooded by phone calls of people all in this area that was not aware of what happened in Fort Detrick. They were not aware of it.
The other thing I wanted you to mention, because you said that some of these people were on city water, and today they made a point to say that when they found out in 1992 that yes, it had gotten into the groundwater, that the only people affected were people who had well water.
No, that's not true. Because, and here's the reason true. It's really two scenarios. Because when they found out that people who had well water had TCE and PCE, what they did is started giving tap water. And we still have families less than a half a mile from here that are still getting bottled water delivered to them to this day. And I've got them. I've got all the houses listed right here. There's one right down here. I mean, less than a block away that is still getting bottled water today. But that's not the only problem. There are people on city water, drinking city water, that are getting cancer as well. Because it's not just, there's two factors. It's not just city water, or well water. You also have the Agent Orange issue, which is deadly. It's sprayed all in this area. Even the area that we are standing in right now was sprayed with Agent Orange. And let me tell you how I know. If you look at the aerial map, you'll see that a half a mile down from here is where my daughter lived. That's where we have the Agent Orange, the spray over. They had towers all in this area to detect the Agent Orange. In addition to that, this is absolutely amazing to me. Not only was it the Agent Orange, but now you have something called vapor intrusion, where when the groundwater is contaminated, it can literally seep through the ground and come up through the basements. So if they're on city water, it can still come up through the cracks, still come up through the crevices of the basement. So they can be on city water, and the vapor actually seep through the ground and come into the houses. Now, what's interesting is this: the topography, the way that the ground rolls, is that there is a stream. In fact, you came across the stream when you came here. There is a stream that runs right down the middle of Fort Detrick through the dump sites where they would put these Agent Orange and these live bacteria, the vials, they would put, and the stream came right down through here, and it goes right here where these pine trees are.
So basically, what they showed me today, where they're capping the landfills, you're saying that the water, the groundwater, the well water may have only been contaminated by what those landfills.
Oh my goodness!
From the Agent Orange, is that correct?
Yeah, 100%. You're right on. It's not just that landfill. They watch what they do. They had burning pits. We've got documentary of all this.
What do you want to see happen at this point?
Well, there's a lot.
What needs to happen
First of
to
all,
make sure everyone
and this is so important. I have been the rest of my life to prove that Detrick has killed people already, number one. Secondly, there's 400 people that I have here that called in that have cancer, that Fort Detrick needs to take responsibility. And Fort Detrick needs to understand that we're not going to lie down any longer. That we're going to be a voice that's going to be reckoned with. We've already hired some of the best attorneys. And if they do not admit they're wrong, we are going to file civil action suit against them. We've got great scientists. We have some of the best in the United States that's coming to our aid. And we're going to make the nation aware that there's a serial killer right there about 100 yards from us. And it's called Fort Detrick. And what they're trying to do is cover it up, and they bring in a few camera crews and saying, this is what we're doing. When we called EPA and talked to the head of EPA, they said it would take 2 years. If they started today, it would take 2 years to get test results back from the water if they tested it today. It takes us 30 days. But yet, the EPA, it's going to take 2 years. Now, my question is this: what's going to happen to not only those 400 people that have cancer, but what about all the new families that are moving in? They don't get any warning of what's been happening. They don't have any foreknowledge of what's going on. They don't see any aerial maps. They don't get any warning whatsoever.
So not enough is being done to tell people who are moving into here.
Exactly.
Can you show me side to side the two maps that you have, where your daughter's house was and then the other? You can hold those two up or side to side.
And I'm going to give you all this. You can read about Agent Orange and all that.
That's great.
Amy, can you hold on to this one?
Show them like side by side. I want to see both pictures at the same time.
Yeah, and I just want to read what the scientist then says. All right, so what you have here, let me just, if I could maybe put it like this.
That'll work. Oh, that
all right.
well. Yeah.
This picture to my right, this picture here, is actually in 1959. That is the aerial tower for testing of biowarfare agent at Fort Detrick in the suburbs of Frederick, Maryland. That's what it says. The arrogance, this is what my scientist says, the arrogance of the Army in the middle of a community of having these towers is unfathomable. Then, if you look, same picture, and this is today, you see where all the residents are, all in this area. Now watch this. This is where my one daughter, who had the tumors, lived. My other daughter lived 1 block behind her. Not only did she die from brain cancer, but her husband had lymphoma. 4. And in this area, there are at least 15 families in a 4-block radius in this area that have non-Hodgkin lymphoma. In this area right here. Just in that area.
I'm good. I've
Okay.
got more than I can use at this point, and I know you have more